the way that I think about it is that if you think of business planning in today's context, right, for the most part, there's a very popular approach and method used. It's called OGSM, right? Objectives, goals, strategies, and measures. And it's fantastic because it's something that's been done, and I've personally gone through that exercise myself at multiple organizations I was at. All the large organizations do it, whether it's P&G, whether it's Unilever or Mars or General Mills. We all did or do OGSM. Well, here's the thing though, when you think of OGSM and if you think of those goals and measures, they're really around two buckets or bodies of work. They're all about setting the strategy and then going and executing that strategy.
That's right.
So in many ways, if I had to take a long-term, mid-term, short-term, construct to business planning process, we probably have covered kind of the long-term part of that spectrum and the short-term part of that spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
But what's wide open, which is not being addressed, or which we know is evolving, and we're teaching folks how to do this, is really addressing not just the long-term and the short-term, but there's a whole body of work that needs to be understood around the midterm, right? Mm-hmm. So we would say that the business planning method is really three things, right, in 4 steps. And the 4 steps are definitely talk about your strategy, set that in motion, right? And then do definitely understand how you're going to go implement or achieve that strategy in your short term. But in the midterm, we really think of 2 bodies of work, right? And that's the robustness. Much like you were talking about think to drive, build to sustain. When you think of business planning, it's in that midterm, there are 2 buckets of work. It's all about, your intelligence and your intent, right?
Yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, target, right? So when I say intelligence, it's really about, getting to this place where we ask questions, and what those questions are basically saying things like, what is happening in the marketplace and how do we structure our work based on those changes? It's a continuous, revisit, if you may, of what's happening in the landscape. And then when we think of target, we think of, what is the right work, but what more importantly is, how are we bringing everybody along on this right work? How are we aligning, if you may? And then how are we setting milestones for achieving those short-term things? So I don't know if this is making a whole lot of sense, but when we say business method evolving, this is what we're talking about.
The business planning method is really is evolving. And I do want to connect something that you said about OGSM to something that we mentioned upstream. These organizations that have been and continue to be strong at the core, their leadership development methodology for a long time has been around, cascade the vision, mission, and values of an organization, the strategy of the organization to all the pieces and parts. And the way that they've done that is through OGSM.
Yep.
And so, and I you saw me disappear. I dropped our prop on the floor, and there was just prop on the floor, and there was no easy way to pick it up. But this is what I hear you saying, Vid, is that OGSM, or more traditional methods of business planning, have always been about 2 boxes. It's been about
That's right.
It's been about the long term, and it's been about the short term execution. And we've used methodologies like OGSM to actually do that.
Yeah.
The problem is that this is a model that's been built for these scaled,
that's right. Yeah.
big at the core organizations. And it does not speak at all to the organizations who are trying to be nimble and expand their perimeters. So it's these 2 bodies of work, that are more midterm oriented, that allow a team to start to create, to innovate, and to do it at the speed and responsiveness, which is what we want them to have happen on the perimeter, right?
Right, exactly. And actually, if you can hold that prop up for a second, Reg, I think, so those bronze boxes really are kind of, is where all the body of work is today, right? In terms of what's being done, where the intelligence is. and it's fantastic. And that's what's basically making these scale-driven companies, or made the scale-driven company succeed, right? Just sheer, just pick a direction and your sheer momentum pushes you in that direction, right?
Yep.
And
OGSM, execute.
that's it. Yep. Just literally, decide, execute, right? And then when you think of the other side, that the two non-bronze boxes, what we're talking about is where we're adding that body of work, and that we're teaching leadership teams to really recognize that there is a whole other midterm business planning that's left on the table, right? It's really opportunity cost. And we're not saying replace your bronze boxes. The important point is we're saying you add to the bronze boxes, so now you cover the full spectrum of long-term, midterm, and short-term. So when we think of this business method, right, the business planning method, that's what we mean when we say it's evolving. And that's what we mean when we say you have to bring this business planning method to modern leadership. Because if you don't do it, then you're not really taking full advantage of your changing organization.